Just wanted to connect. I mean, you probably talk to a lot of people, and I'm sure quite a few of them, it's like the very intro call, and you're like, you could do this, like, you could leave your 9 to 5 and all that. And so I'm a little bit further along, don't have a 9 to 5 anymore. I'm a contractor, and so I don't actually work a whole lot anymore. And 2025, the vision is just to like push into real estate, and that's the overall goal right now. And so just connecting with people like yourself who are a few years further along than me, and just seeing what are some of the pitfalls or bumps in the roads that you've hit, and see if I can avoid those as we dive into doing that.
Yes, congratulations as well. I would say the number one pitfall I encountered was I bought a house and then I financed the renovations on credit cards. And I got 4 no-interest credit cards, and it did pay for the renovations. But when it came time to put a 30-year fixed mortgage on it, I couldn't get the mortgage because my credit utilization on the credit cards was maxed out. That's a big factor in evaluating your credit risk. So I was like, shit. Luckily, I had income from other places to just pay those down and then get them, handle that. I would say you've got to do a hard money loan, which is deal based, rather than do it via credit cards, But I just wanted to make it happen no matter what. And hey, it worked out. I think the universe favors action takers more than people who are afraid to take action. So there's that. Second pitfall I ran into whenever I was doing real estate, quit my job similar to you, was I paid my contractor too much upfront. So I think I paid him 50% of the $65K rehab, and he automatically just kept saying, oh, he's busy, he's gonna come tomorrow. Oh, they're busy, they're gonna come tomorrow. Really, the house ended up being a bigger task than what they thought. They couldn't complete the job for the price we had agreed on. And so he had his guys stop working on it, but it took him months before he came to realization to fully admit that, and I wasted a lot of time. So I think the way I would have gotten around that would be pay him in smaller increments. It's normal for a lump sum up front, but like, hey, maybe don't pay him 50% up front, maybe a third, right? Now, I did end up getting a refund from him, but it just took a lot of time where nothing happened. And it also took me to have like a hard conversation with him. So that would be the other one. The other pitfall was he used a plumber that didn't put all the pipes in with the right slant, right? So when I guess when I selected a contractor, I didn't like require that he showed me, hey, these are actual like legit service people. Maybe they didn't have a license. I don't know. but later with that particular house, I actually had to redo all the plumbing in the crawl space because it wasn't like flowing out. It was getting clogged. I didn't discover that until like 3 or 4 years after owning it and having rented it out. Mm-hmm. But I realized then he put it together with all these weird slants, I'll just keep going. So I would say a big common pitfall is I'm typically rehabbing houses that are at least 1950, 60, 70, 80. They're over 40 years old and they haven't been updated for a while. So you may run into houses that have clay pipes. That clay sewer pipe costs $7,000 to $10,000 to replace. And so a lot of houses that age, if they haven't had the sewer line replaced, you'll know because you won't see that white PVC pipe sticking up in the front yard, which is a clean out. So those old houses don't have it. And typically tree roots get into clay pipes after 50 years, and you'll need to routinely clean it out. But you have to pull a toilet in order to clean it out if your house doesn't have a clean out. And a lot of plumbers won't pull a toilet to clean it out because it's like not proper. So I had to like dig and find a plumber who's willing to do the undoable and clean out a couple of my houses every year. If I have to clean them out more than once a year, then I'll replace the sewer pipe. But that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing a assessment of how much money it's going to take to fix up a house. Is be like, well, this might be a problem. Check it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So those are 3 off the top of my head.
Very cool. I was going to ask, obviously I watched your Bigger Pockets episode and your Instagram. Can you tell me just a little bit about your current portfolio, what you own?
Yeah, so I have 19 properties, and the typical property is like 200K all in after repair value. I aim to be all in 75% of that, so I can do a full BRRRR, which means I get all my money back out, and it's got 25% equity, so I've got it financed with no down payment when it's all said and done, and then everything is brand new. So most of those properties fit that. I've had a few exceptions. I had to sell a couple properties because they were valued too high, and I couldn't find a renter to totally like cover the mortgage payment. I just want to keep everything as long as possible. It's so hard to find a truly good deal that I want to hold on to it, so I get that appreciation that happens over the long run. And because there's a tenant in place paying for the house, it allows me to hold the property forever, so it's not taking money out of my pocket, right? I get that appreciation. I don't know if you've looked at these graphs, but check this out. I was looking at this the other day. Indianapolis Home Price Index, the Federal Reserve Bank, they do these. So in Indianapolis and probably Birmingham, Alabama, even in 2008, it didn't really get hit like the rest of the country. Like Denver is probably a market that got hit big time, right? Those high appreciation markets, they typically get hit when stuff goes wrong. They're more volatile, right? But Indianapolis and all these Midwest markets seem to be like a bond. And so if these properties could just pay for themselves, I used to follow the 1% rule, and I still do. And I'd think, I'm getting $500 a month in my pocket every month. But looking at some of my deals I've had for like 7 years now, the mortgage payment doesn't increase, but the rent has really increased, like a lot. Yeah, so the deal just gets better and better as time goes on. Now, of course, you'll have maintenance that comes in after 8-10 years as well, but you should have had enough appreciation by then that it more than pays for it.
Sure. No, absolutely. That's great. So you're in long hold. You want to hold on to your properties.
Oh yeah, there's transaction costs with everything, and I think the biggest win is appreciation. And so I really don't want to sell unless I absolutely have to, because it won't work and it won't pay for itself.
Sure. Are you cash flowing enough to live off of just the cash flow from your portfolio now?
Yeah, it's $12,000 a month net. It's $144,000 gross. Or wait, no, it's $144 total. I know it's $12,000 a month net. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But yeah, on 19 properties, the average value is $200K, the average rent's $2,000, and then the average house is cash flowing a minimum $500 above the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and some much more than that because I've had them for a long time, right? And the rent just kept going up. So I think it's $36,000 a month gross. Yeah, $12,000 a month net. That's the
excellent.
Yeah, that's the cash flow number.
I'm trying to get a perspective of where you're at with how many properties you have, because that's the goal is like I want to buy. My goal this year is to buy 6 properties in Birmingham, but at the same time, like you can go buy 6 properties, but are they good purchases? Are they going to
right?
Is the real question.
You make your money when you buy, and I actually did some new strategies this past year on a few houses. I made 500 offers to properties that were on the MLS for over 90 days and hadn't sold. I sent offers at 70% of the list price. So I did 5 deals like that. So I ended up getting somebody's rehabbed property that was actually very beautiful. But now that the weather dipped to 6 degrees, literally 2 days ago, I'm dealing with this problem where there's no insulation in the walls. So it's my first winter, there's 3 college girls in there, and they're calling me, they're like, the furnace isn't keeping up, it's 64 degrees, and then the next day they're like, it's 52 degrees, and the furnace is running the whole time. I was proactive with the furnace, like I got that inspected, I got that serviced by a pro, all is good, but the lack of insulation in the walls, I had no idea, and the heat's just going right out the window. So I'm like emergency getting somebody that will drill holes and put that spray foam in the walls, like literally as I speak. And so, I just told the girls, we bought them space heaters, that's really awful, right? To be in like interior cold weather. So that one's something that just caught me off guard. So if you buy someone else's rehab project, you get stuck with stuff like that you don't know. And if you're the one who actually did it, that's why I love doing it myself. I'm the one who knows it was done right. I'm not going to encounter these types of issues.
Absolutely. No, for sure. I'm going to go back to my list here because I could ask you cool questions all day. Do you have any Section 8 rentals?
I don't have any Section 8 rentals. I know everyone says it's free guaranteed checks from the government, but what I liked to think about was I've been self-managing it. It was important for me to self-manage it, and I feel like the amount of conversations I'm going to have, I want to get more money for the same amount of conversations, right? So if I have a $1,000 a month property versus a $2,000 a month property, it's still the same amount of convos to get a lease for $1,000 as it is a lease for $2,000, right? And a higher value property is going to give me higher appreciation. So I just thought it was more efficient, and I also thought it'd be more of a dependable tenant if it was like a higher end rental that has granite countertops instead of the cheapest Formica that you might find in a Section 8. So,
Sure.
And I felt like it was important to self-manage it because if you think about a property manager, they get first month's rent as their payment. So if they, if they're trying to make it as a full-time property manager, they really need a person with a portfolio of like 50 properties, right? So they go find that person with 50 properties. They're going to care about the performance of that portfolio more than the performance of my 1, 2, or 3 properties, right? Because it's really just not going to matter. Their incentive is to keep that big, important customer, not care as much about mine. And also, I truly believe before you hire somebody to do it for you, that you should have an understanding of doing it yourself so that you know if the person doing it is doing a good job or not. So for all those reasons, I wanted to self-manage, and I'll never hire a third-party property manager, but I may hire like an internal one to help out. So that's kind of my view on it. Being out of state, maybe that's just not an option for you, which is also fine, right? So there's people who are successful doing it that way, but that's how I thought about it.
Are you in the same state as your properties?
I was, but not anymore. So I live in Austin. My properties are in Indianapolis. And I did leave behind like several employees in Indianapolis. So one of their jobs, my assistant part-time, is property managing, but she really puts an automated lockbox on the property. And then we do self-showings where the tenant can give a credit card and an ID to get a showing of that. So it's really not as much time as it sounds to have her do that.
No, I was just saying it makes sense that you're doing it that way when you're going to lose the first month's rent immediately with the management company. So that just kind of that pays for itself right away.
Well, and then the worst thing that grinds my gears is something that's expensive that you also get bad service from. And I just don't know how a property manager with 100 rentals can give me and my tenant the best service, when most of the conversations is really just the tenant saying, I'm cold, and then it's me saying, I'm buying you heaters. Well, it's like the property managers just text me and say, do you want me to buy heaters? Something like, I have a contractor that I just text to take care of stuff. So to me, the management's not that big a deal anyway, because it's text message convos with people that have nice jobs, right? Because it's a higher end rental. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, just being out of the state, not knowing anything about, Birmingham. So I'm probably going to go the management route.
I think so.
Or,
yes. I'm sure there's
just numbers.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, quantity. A few questions I have for you. These are kind of like holes in my knowledge that I'm finding, and I'm like, okay, if I get these answered, like it'll really help this year. And so, do you use investor capital when purchasing new properties, either hard money or loans from investors?
Man, when I was getting started, my friend who had a stockbroker job in Chicago, 3-4 years out of college, saw the type of deal I got on my first property. He's like, man, I want to do that, but I can't do that in Chicago. It's too expensive, doesn't cash flow here. And it was right at the same time I was wanting to go full time, which means I wouldn't be qualified for a mortgage anymore. So what we did is we got $100,000 unsecured loan from SoFi, who they do provide to people with good W-2s, AKA my buddy Nick. And so Nick provided down payment money. He provided putting his name on loans. And I found the deal. And when we rehabbed it and put it in a 30-year mortgage, the mortgage was only in his name because he was the one with the job, but we were both equally 50% on title. So I did my third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh deal like that with my buddy Nick. And so that was great because I had now 5 cash flowing rental properties I added to my portfolio. I literally had no money that I put into it. So you can't do that with any Joe Blow. Like, we just kind of knew each other and we're pretty aligned on that and are pretty easygoing. But I didn't go out and get investor capital, but I did have a buddy that was somebody I knew that like really wanted to go and do this. And he found, we already knew each other, but it was a social media post I had made talking about my deal. And he just reached out. He's like, dude, I want to do this. How do we do this together? So we still hold the properties to this day. And 6 years is the average length we've held it. And I remember one, we didn't even do any rehab to it. We bought it for $100,000. And it's worth like $290 now. So the mortgage payment's literally $380.
Yeah.
Right? Because, oh man, so it was great.
Very cool. Have you used like a hard money lender at all? I'm kind of new to that. I've always just paid cash for these, but there's more scaling if you can use hard money.
I haven't used hard money, but I have used, and once you have 10 mortgages, then you have to go get like actual, you can't get government loans anymore, right? So the government loans are better rates and they're cheaper. But I have switched over to doing the DSCR loans now, which are a little bit more expensive, maybe 1% more in interest. But it's great because there's no limit to how many of those you can do. And I've tried 3 different companies, and my very favorite, easiest one to work with was Renovo. I would recommend working with Renovo if you're going to explore that route. They also offer products for purchasing and flipping, which are more short-term products. And I haven't used their short-term products, just use the long-term DSCR loan.
Okay. And how do you spell Renovo?
Renovo. And I wouldn't be opposed to it. So some of the other lenders, like I remember there was like a property where they thought it had an AC, but it didn't really have an AC. And so closing day came and they were like, can we have a picture with the AC? And the seller didn't have an AC. And they blew up the whole deal on these other lenders, right? Because of this like one missing piece. And I feel like Renovo was able to do it with like a waiver that says like, you'll put this in within so many days, right? And so I feel like there were just these weird hangups that other lenders had because they were selling the mortgages to other open market investors. So they have to meet certain requirements, but Renovo seems to keep them all in their own books so they can be more flexible, build that relationship with you better.
Excellent. Yeah, so they're a private. So they probably do their own underwriting.
Seemed like it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
In Birmingham, I have a contractor that I'm working with. Have you heard of Rhett Wiseman? He's pretty big on social now.
I haven't actually. What's his name? I'll check him out.
Okay.
Brent?
It's just Rhett Wiseman. Yeah.
I
spelled last RHETT and then just Wise MAN. I think it is. Let me see.
Well, just I don't want to take up your time. Just send it to me after our call.
He doesn't have a huge social media presence, but basically he's the contractor. He knows everyone in that market.
Beautiful.
And he's connecting me with everyone. But at the same time, I feel like he is a little bit more expensive of a contractor. So do you have any recommendations for if I wanted to source a deal? And I have questions about that as well. But let's say I have a deal and I want to do the renovations and kind of manage that myself. Finding a good contractor in Alabama or any market. Yeah,
the current contractor I have, I've always asked for recommendations, right? And eventually contractors are really good until they get too busy and they don't have the self-awareness to know that they're too busy or communicate that because they're busy working, right? Or maybe they get a higher paying job than what you're paying them on and they get sidetracked, squirrel, and they want to go make that bigger job. Now you're left with a flip that's taken a long time, which is problematic when you're borrowing hard money that has a monthly cost, right, to hold that. So recommended ways is still word of mouth. Go ask in the Birmingham Facebook group who people like as contractors. If you ever make a trip to Birmingham, drive around neighborhoods that are being gentrified and ask the people who are working on those projects if they want more work. Introduce yourself, say, I've got a project, I'd like to have you bid on it, right? Get 3 bids, and those are the ways I found contractors. People say they stand in front of Lowe's and they talk to people who are coming in and out of Lowe's at 7 a.m., and that's maybe a decent way. I just personally haven't done it. But those are the 3 ways recommending finding contractors.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about how you're sourcing deals, because I have a lot of wholesalers and different things, but it sounds like you basically are your own wholesaler, and I love that. So you said on Bigger Pockets that you're paying someone to drive around and find properties for you?
Yes, Anthony Molina. He's actually been driving around looking for rundown properties for me for 3 years. And he's actually, technology is something I'm using more now. We have AI that looks at Google imagery to tell me which houses are distressed. So I'm using that more now. And Anthony's got a full-time job, and he does part-time work for me, like run here, take pictures. But he's not working full-time for me like he was now that we've got the AI that can look at images for me. It's always great to have a person like that who can do errands, but I don't need him full-time anymore. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And it is nice if there's like a big storm to have somebody go drive for a couple weeks, because that won't be showing up on the Google images. And one house I bought in particular had a great big tree that fell on the house, and the owner just didn't know it because they were living with their daughter who had gotten divorced and needed help with the kids in a different city, right? So that's why I say, if there's like a, so she didn't even know the tree fell on her house, because it wasn't like a newsworthy storm, but if you know something came through like that, it's a good time to have somebody take a look.
I love that. Do you have any recommendations of how to find someone, like for instance, that flip that I'm doing in, or the burn I'm doing in Birmingham? I want to find someone literally just to go there and FaceTime me so I can make the final contractor payment.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just hard to connect with people like that aren't a contractor or something.
Yeah. I like the app TaskRabbit. You could find somebody under the personal assistant category to go run that errand for you, go check on that house for you, go take photos for you, and they'll have an hourly price. And so I think definitely would be a spot you could find somebody reliable, because they're on the app. The app takes a cut for a safety score or for a safety fee as well, because it kind of de-risks you working with somebody you don't know, right? Because they want to maintain their reputation on the app, and you could see how many people they've worked with there. So that'd be one recommendation.
Thank you.
Yeah, or Birmingham Investor Facebook group. Somebody trying to get into it locally that hasn't done a deal yet may want to receive payment from you to like help you out. That could be another good option.
Excellent. Okay. And am I correct in thinking that's how you find your properties? You don't use a wholesaler most of the time?
I've actually never bought from a wholesaler. A lot of wholesalers use my app that I created, coincidentally, but I've never bought from a wholesaler actually, doing the marketing myself like they would.
Excellent. Okay. Because that's what I want to get into. I want to try and increase my margin in these deals by Birmingham's just so exploded with wholesalers, real estate agents, and contractors, and it's like if I could kind of bring it a little bit more in-house, there's more meat on the bone, so to say.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.